Nathan had a sweet tooth. He could never pass on an opportunity to eat anything sweet. The red velvet berry cake from around the corner bakery was his biggest weakness. But today, his appetite for anything sweet had been crushed by his dear wife. As Nathan sat in the dimly lit pantry of his office, waiting for the coffee pot to be done, he stared at the large cake with animosity. The words written on it made him feel like a joke. Dejected and exhausted, Nathan let out a loud sigh. "Happy 5th anniversary, my love." "Anniversary, my foot," he muttered to himself bitterly. "Happy anniversary, love." A woman's voice sounded from behind him, and Nathan jumped down from the chair, his heart beating wildly as his eyes settled on the lady standing at the door. She smiled mystically, proud of herself for having scared him. "You're like a cat, jeez," Nathan exhaled in relief. "Make some noise at least." "Didn't mean to startle you, Nate. I thought I heard a thief, but it's just my best employee. What the hell are you still doing here?" the woman asked, leaning against the door frame. She looked at him with cat-like eyes, crossed her arms over her chest, and continued to smile. It was then that Nathan truly looked at her. Over the course of the last several years of his employment at Chimera Marketing Incorporated, Nathan had of course noticed the unrestrained beauty of his boss, Violet Kramer. In his previous career as a CEO of Star World Entertainment, Nathan had met so many beautiful women, and had even dated the creme de la creme of them. But only one woman's beauty came close to Violet's: Emma. Nathan shook the impromptu thought of his ex-girlfriend from his mind, and took in the beauty of Violet in front of him. She was dressed in a red-colored silk nightdress that accentuated the soft curves of her body, standing barefoot in the office kitchen at 9 p.m. on a Friday. With a flimsy lace wrap sliding down her shoulder and an empty wine glass dangling from her delicate fingers, she looked like a woman straight out of every man's fantasies. But despite her obvious sensual appeal and gorgeously breathtaking looks, Nathan didn't let his mind wander off to places he'd rather not visit. He'd once been a ladies' man, but had long since given up on that lifestyle in hopes to redeem himself in his own eyes. Now Nathan was a one-woman man, and the only woman who dominated his life was the reason why he was here today. Suddenly, he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket, and Nathan reached for it as if his life depended on it. His face fell when he saw that it wasn't her calling. Violet cleared her throat, and Nathan was reminded of her presence. "Oh, what were you saying?" he asked, embarrassed to have ignored his boss. Violet narrowed her eyes as she studied his confused demeanor. "Never mind that," she said. She walked over and sat on the chair opposite him. Reaching for the coffee pot, she poured the steaming liquid into a cup. She slid the cup over to Nathan and gestured for him to drink it. "Thanks." Nathan smiled politely, but didn't touch the cup. Violet's eyes fell on the untouched cake on the counter. "What happened with your wife?" she asked him. "I'm guessing something went terribly wrong, or else you wouldn't be here on your anniversary." She crossed her legs, and her short nightdress slid a few inches above her thigh, making her smooth skin a sight to relish. Despite his mind's preoccupations, Nathan couldn't ignore the obvious physical reaction that Violet's proximity caused. So he safely took a step away, and then looked at his boss, who was patiently waiting for him to answer her. It was 2 years ago when Nathan joined Violet's company as a marketing manager. He met Violet on his first day, and though the age difference between them was obvious, Violet being 8 years his junior, it seemed to him that she had taken an instant liking toward him. After a few interactions with her, Nathan too had started to enjoy her company. Over the course of the time he spent in her presence, Nathan became aware of Violet's flirtatious nature. She was jovial, kind, playful, and never missed an opportunity to flirt with him. But he never mistook it for anything other than just that. Their work relationship turned into a casual friendship, and soon Violet became Nathan's most trusted confidant. He valued his friendship with her, but he never let himself cross the line. There were times when Violet wanted Nathan to accompany her to her penthouse, right above their office for nothing more than just a casual drink. But Nathan made sure to never cross that boundary. Not because he doubted Violet's intentions, but because he had crossed far too many boundaries in his life and had destroyed so many relationships because he never knew well enough. Nathan had vowed to never go back down that road, come what may. It's nothing, Nathan started, but Violet shushed him. Oh, nonsense. Look at your face, Nate. Even a blind person could tell that something is bothering you. You're not that good at hiding your feelings, and I'm exceptionally great at reading that handsome face of yours. Violet reached forward and placed her hand over his and gently squeezed it. I'm here for you. The moment Violet touched his hand, Nathan slid it out from under hers. It was as if he had been jolted by electricity. For some reason, Nathan didn't trust himself in this moment, especially after the day he had had. He didn't want to give in to his old habits that always knocked on his door at his lowest moments. Today he felt like he had hit rock bottom after so many years of struggling to stay afloat. Any temptation in his weakest hour would have him resorting to his old ways, especially a temptation like her. Violet? Before Nathan could say more, Violet was already pulling him away from the chair. I don't want to hear it, she said. Come with me now. I'm your boss, and this is my premises. And it's an order. Violet tried to be authoritative. She managed to get Nathan out the door and then suddenly stopped. She ran back into the kitchen and pointed at the cake. I'm guessing no one's eating this now? Nathan sighed defeatedly. Have at it. Violet grinned. With the help of her empty wine glass, Violet scooped some cake and dunk her fingers into the soft, gooey deliciousness. Nathan watched, arrested in fascination as the girl licked the cake off her fingers, and for the first time since he had known her, Nathan sensed trouble. His heart started to beat faster, differently. He could feel his palms turn clammy and a rushing excitement inside him. He became aware of the smile on his own face as he saw the notorious joy on Violet's face as she ate his favorite cake. For the first time that night, Nathan completely forgot about his wife. And so I left before things could get worse. I started driving and ended up here, Nathan said to Violet, who was carefully listening to his story. After having vented to her, Nathan felt himself calm down. Violet frowned sympathetically. I'm so sorry about that. I feel so bad for you, Nate. She put her hand on top of his thigh and squeezed lightly. Nathan felt himself tense up. He shifted away from Violet, trying not to make it obvious that her proximity was having an effect on him. They were currently inside Violet's office, seated closely together on the large couch in the room. The scent of Violet's perfume was everywhere, and strangely, it was having a calming effect on Nathan's nerves. Or maybe it was just finally saying his piece out loud that worked for him, but Nathan certainly felt lighter than he had when he had walked into the building an hour ago. He looked at the cake he had bought for his wife, half eaten by now, and scoffed. At least the cake didn't go to waste. Good thing I left it in my car, or else Macy would have probably smashed it on my head. What a waste it would have been of a delicious cake, Violet said, taking another bite of the cake. You should try some. I can't even look at it, said Nathan. The sadness in his voice was imminent. Violet turned to him and said, I'm sure once Macy's anger wears off, she will call you and apologize. I'm sure she loves you just as much as you do. Nathan shook his head. I don't think she does anymore. I've been so blind, Violet. So busy with work and making sure that I can afford Macy's extravagant lifestyle that I never even noticed when she fell out of love with me. I'm exhausted too, you know. I do everything for her. I can't remember the last time I did something that was for me. We go to her favorite restaurants even though they're expensive as shit. She only buys branded clothes, and do you know how much her skincare costs? Violet laughed softly. Skincare is expensive, Nate. A lady has got to take care of her beauty. But $45 for sunscreen? That's what keeps your wife young, Violet said. SPF is your best friend, too. Nathan simply shook his head. I don't know. I just wanted her to love me for me. Silence took over the room as Violet watched the disappointment on Nathan's face. She loves you, Nathan. I'm sure she does. She doesn't. I saw it in her eyes. I don't know, God, I feel like I've messed up yet again. Nathan exhaled an exhausted breath and dropped his head in his palms. For a few minutes, Violet remained silent. Meanwhile, Nathan gathered his emotions and got ready to leave. He was about to thank her for listening to him vent when Violet broke the silence. Why have you never introduced me to her? She asked suddenly. Her question threw Nathan off a bit. It was a bit random for their current conversation. Nathan shrugged and said, There was never a chance. There have been so many chances, Nathan. Then why have I never met your wife? We've been friends for so long now. I think even if you don't want her to meet your boss, you might still want your wife to meet your friend. Nathan looked at her intently for a second as he tried to give Violet an answer that would suffice. He knew why he had always hesitated to introduce Macy to Violet, but he was afraid that saying the words out loud would give his reason a completely different meaning. But as he watched Violet waiting for his answer patiently without a shred of indignance or arrogance, Nathan confessed, "I don't think she would get it." "Get what?" Violet asked. "Us. Macy won't get what we have, and I don't want to give you up because of that." Nathan's words shifted something in Violet. It was like a change happening right in front of her eyes, one that she could feel in the way that her heart relaxed a little bit more. It was like before she looked at him through a thinly veiled screen, where she could still see him, but the veil stopped her from reaching for him. But now, after Nathan said those words to her, Violet looked at him with a newfound possibility, like she could maybe reach out and just grab. "Are you sure then?" she finally asked. "About Macy not being in love with you. Are you sure that this could be the end?" There was a hint of anticipation in her voice, but Nathan missed it in his current state of mind. He reached for his phone and saw that there were still no missed calls or texts from Macy. He felt like his heart was continuously falling into a bottomless pit. "I'm sure that we can never go back from this. We haven't been happy for a long time. I was trying to avoid accepting that, but it doesn't seem like I can run away from it." "Call your wife," Violet said to him suddenly. "Tell her to put on her best dress and meet us at Vic and Anthony's steakhouse in an hour and a half." This baffled Nathan. "But I don't understand." Violet shushed him, pressing her finger over his lips, her green eyes gleaming with something Nathan couldn't quite place yet. "Just trust me, Nathan." She leaned toward him, and Nathan's whole body went still in response. He felt Violet's warm breath on his neck as she whispered into his ear, "I'll never do anything to hurt you." As Violet pulled away, there was a brief moment when their eyes met. Violet was now sitting so close to him that Nathan could clearly see the individual specks of gold in her bright green eyes. Though the AC was on full blast, Nathan's skin tingled with warmth. His eyes flickered to Violet's lips, which suddenly looked so inviting, pink, plump, and luscious. He was only a man, and Violet was a vixen. If she wanted something, she made sure she damn well had it. A soft smile started to form on Violet's lips, and she dared to lean closer. Another inch and their lips would meet. Nathan wasn't sure anymore if he could stop himself from crossing that line. After all, this wouldn't be the first time that he'd be cheating on someone who trusted him. Macy. The thought of his wife was like being splashed in the face with iced water. Nathan broke out of his stupor and quickly moved away from the woman. Standing up, he looked at her with guilt-ridden eyes. Violet, Macy." He even struggled to form a full sentence. But there was nothing on Violet's face to indicate that they were about to do something wrong. Violet stood up, looking like the confident, unapologetic woman that she was. She walked up to him and adjusted his tie. Nathan tried his best not to look at her, or even breathe in her scent, which seemed to be all over his clothes now. "Call your wife, Nate. I know just the thing you need." Since he'd been saving up to make this day